Live from Las Vegas, Nevada, it's WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. With your host, the dazzling and talented Sandy Kastel. WIMA is a non-profit organization comprised of dynamic, influential women in the performing, visual, and literary arts, dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. For the next 60 minutes, we'll meet local performers, painters, sculptors, singers, songwriters, musicians, comedians, dancers, authors, and more. Now, let's bring on the host. Here is Sandy Kastel.
Welcome to Women in Music and Arts. This is your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM 1230 and streaming online at KLAV.com. Our show today is sponsored by members of Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. You can find out more about Women in Music and Arts by going to our website at womeninmusicandarts.com. My guests today are both authors. Joining us in a few minutes by phone is America's most loved artist, Randy Riccoboni, and author of The Big Picture, Unleash Your Creativity and Profit from Your Passion. But in the studio with us today is international activist, advocate, and author Gabriella Van Rij, author of With All My Might, Losing Fear, Finding Self. Hello, Gabriella.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you. We've already started. I mean, when we were in the green room, we were having a great conversation already.
Yes, we were.
Just to give us a little bit of idea about who you are and where you're from and how you decided to write this book.
I decided to write the book because my story is unique, but the emotions that are behind the story actually touch a lot of people today still. I think I touch upon a lot of social issues, all the way from bullying to racism to how you get totally treated differently again after 9/11. And so a lot of the things make us feel totally isolated. And my book is basically With All My Might, and it's about self-acceptance, learning that road towards accepting who you are and what you are and being actually proud of it.
Mm-hmm. And even though you're working with children a lot to help them deal with being bullied, it also affects adults of all ages.
Oh, it affects everyone.
Yeah.
We always concentrate on children at the moment, especially because I think the suicide rates have gone up tremendously, and that's why we concentrate on it, and we need to. I mean, there needs to be awareness. But I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and beautiful place. It rains too much, but one of the things that I find is we're still not the melting pot we're supposed to be. So you have a lot of people that come into Canada and then find jobs, and they actually get a lot of harassment in the jobs.
Even though it seems like it's a melting pot up there.
It's on the surface, it always looks good.
Right.
But then when you start digging a little bit, everyone stays within their corner. Mm-hmm. And I think this is not just for Canada. If you look at what's happening in the world today, whether it's Germany, whether it's the United States, whether it's Holland, they're all having troubles in this area.
Well, I agree with you. I think even in New York, L.A., in different cities, you do have communities that, in Las Vegas, we have the same thing. You have communities where people seem to congregate that are in a certain culture. But part of that is due to having familiar foods.
Yes.
And
I'm not saying that it's a problem that you like to stay within your ethnicity.
Right.
But when there is such a fear-based of the other person,
right,
that's a problem, because then bullying and racism comes back to the foreground. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of Google alerts through Travis, and I can tell you, they're horrendous stories, one by one. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be happening in 2012.
No, it shouldn't. But you're in Las Vegas for a particular reason this week, aren't you?
I am. I'm in Las Vegas for an adoption association here with the Clark County. And on Saturday at 6 p.m., where I will be having the possibility to talk to parents that have adopted children. And I get a chance to speak to the adoptees, because the struggle for them in where do they belong in the scheme of things is really important. And I think we miss often talking to them and talking to them together.
And also you talk about when children of different races are adopted by
interracial adoption
relationships. Yes.
I heard the other day, I was at a book club, and someone in Utah adopted 2 Black American children. Now, in a tiny little village somewhere within Utah, they're not thinking ahead how this is going to affect these children. And these are things that I would like parents. I think it's great to adopt, but I think you also need to understand what you're doing to that child. Because in my case, coming from Pakistan and then suddenly having to live in the Netherlands where everyone was blonde and blue-eyed is a shock.
You stood out a little.
Yes. Total outcast. But I think standing out is not the problem. The problem is, where do you fit in?
Right.
And children, and I think adults too, we desperately want to fit in. Whereas bullying, if you look at it, it's because of your uniqueness that you get bullied or picked upon. So in my case, I got picked upon because everyone said, "Who is she?"
Right. And you mentioned before that your parents had a difficult time totally understanding it because they were a different color.
Totally. So my parents could not relate. So one of the things that I've never done, and I think many, many children do this, by the way, you can't tell your parents about the humiliation of the bullying. But I met a little boy at the middle school in Phoenix, and he asked me a question. After school, they come to me, right? I speak to them. And this boy actually really touched my heart because he said he was Asian from Korea. And he said, "When will they stop teasing me about my eyes?" Wow. And I looked at him and I said, "When they understand, and they never will." And he then, it's like the boy, you saw him think, and it was like he had an epiphany. And he said, "But I'm better off than you." And I thought, wow, it's a little squirt. And I'm like, okay. Come again?
Said, why?
Yeah. And he goes, "Because when I go home, I love my mom, I love my dad, and they all look like me."
Yes.
And I thought, wow, he got it.
There's familiarity.
In that 1 second,
Right.
he actually got what I'm
Right.
trying to teach.
Right.
And he got it because he feels it at school. But then he goes home and he is able to talk about the bullying because he actually has a mother that understands that to a certain extent. I didn't have that. I could not go to my mom and talk about skin color because she does not know.
So you kept it inside.
Yes.
And then you dealt with it by how? How did you deal with that? I mean, did you find that you
I'm a pain.
that it came out in other ways?
I'm a person that loves to play. I love to communicate. And I think communication is my middle name. And so I couldn't understand, and I was not going to accept that people weren't going to play with me. And being called Four Eyes was just not good enough. So although in the book With All My Might, I don't go into all these details, the book is basically an introduction of who's Gabriella and what did it take to find her might. Whereas in the children's version, I really go into these details of what it was like to be teased day after day and what I did. And so one of the important lessons that I learned, even though it still astonishes me today, is they were scared of me. So the bully or the group is scared of the unknown.
That's right.
And if we could understand that, if we could empower children to understand that, can you imagine that they would actually straighten their shoulders and have this attitude that's really positive?
Well, even as adults, I think we still, when we are, somebody is aggressive towards us, a lot of times we do take it personally if we don't realize that is their stuff, it's not ours, and that's them acting out. And so it's good that you're going to teach children we're helping to teach children so that as they grow up, they understand how to deal with these things, not only in school, but as they go on to high school and college and in the real world. Working.
And I also have heard, and that saddens me a lot, that a lot of victims of bullying become actually bullies later in life. And that's saddening because they know firsthand how tough it was. So as adults, they shouldn't do that. But again, it's because nobody dealt with it with them. So I think it's really important to both treat the children and the adults.
Is that why you've decided to write a children's book too?
The children's book comes out of, honestly, when you suddenly realize that you are a role model to them and that they can relate to every ethnicity, whether you're from South America, whether you're from the Middle East, I seem to have this look, which you can't see on the radio. But I seem to have this look that kind of blends in no matter which culture it is, except the Dutch, obviously.
Yes, yes.
So if you look at that, for those children, they can relate. And I realized the importance of that. I realized that although I suffered being Pakistani and Dutch and not knowing where I belonged, that this is such an important message, and to get it out in a children's version. The only thing I can honestly say, it's much harder to write the children's version because I really want them to understand how painful it was.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to dig deep and go there.
Right, right.
And that's tough.
All right. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Women in Music and Arts with Sandy Kastel, and we are on KLAV live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon. And my guests today are both authors. Joining us in a very few minutes is America's Most Loved Artist, Randy Riccoboni, and author of The Big Picture, Unleash Your Creativity and Profit from Your Passion. And we've just been speaking with international activist and advocate and author Gabriella Van Rij, author of With All My Might, Losing Fear and Finding Self. Let's go to our list. We're going to take a little break right now for our listening audience. Now you say you're lonely. You cried the long night through. Well, you can cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river over you. Now you say you're sorry for being so untrue. Well, you can cry me a river, cry me a river. I cried a river over you. You drove me, nearly drove me out of my head, while you never shed a tear. Remember, I remember all that you said. Told me love was too plebeian. Told me you were through with me. And now you say you love me. Well, just to prove that you do, come on and cry me a river.
Are you tired of your old job? Are you starting over? Are you looking for a new career? Join Sandy Kastel, Amy Kardashian, and Eric Johnson for Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. As a former Miss Nevada recording artist and author, Sandy Kastel will show you how to tune out negative influences and follow your dream. In her informational Don't Tell Me I Can, she'll also give a sneak preview of her new album, Indiana Rain. Motivational speaker and author of Tears of Hope, Amy Kardashian, will help you stay focused on your new project. And Eric Johnson will wrap up the day with his tried and true method for finishing your project. It's Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. Learn more about Empowering Women Workshops at empoweringwomenworkshops.com.
Make a difference with WIMA, Women in Music and Arts. WIMA is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. And becoming a member is easy. Log on to WIMAinternational.com. That's WIMA, W-I-M-A, international.com. Or call 702-240-2930. 702-240-2930. The benefits of membership are many. There are empowering women workshops, monthly WIMA mixers at different locations, art shows, songwriter showcases, big band performances, poetry readings, and so much more. And membership starts at just $25. Log on now to WIMAinternational.com or call 702-240-2930. That's 702-240-2930. WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts.
Empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. This is WIMA, Women in Music and Arts. Here again is your host, Sandy Kastel.
Welcome to Women in Music and Arts. This is your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM 1230 and streaming online at klav.com. The music you listen to on our breaks is from my album This Time Around, and you can go to sandykastel.com to find my CDs, or to iTunes, or to Facebook, so come and look me up whenever you have a chance. Our guests today are both authors. Joining us in a few minutes by phone is America's most loved artist, Randy Riccoboni, and author of The Big Picture, Unleash Your Creativity and Profit from Your Passion. And in the studio with us today is international activist, advocate, and author Gabriella Van Rij, author of With All My Might, Losing Fear, Finding Self. Have you ever felt alone, unwanted, or like you didn't belong? Well, Gabriella is here to tell us that it's okay to be different and to never apologize for who you are. Gabriella, that's wonderful.
Yeah, because if you learn to apologize nonstop, you actually are hiding who you are, I think. And I find that most of us women kind of tend to want to be super women. And I've, of course, learned this from my mother, that with a Christian upbringing, that I needed to be good at everything. And I also, besides from performing, I needed to help every single human being, from a neighbor to the child that I don't even know, from my own children, husband. And I say husbands because I'm married twice. Mm-hmm. And I always felt that each time that we don't do something, then you apologize and say, I'll do better next time. Mm. And it took me till 40. And at 40, I said, I'm not going to apologize.
And folks, she only looks like 20, let me tell you.
And so I really don't. I think that all women should be empowered. Men don't necessarily apologize for that, for their being helpful or not helpful, but women have to be helpful. Otherwise, we're considered bitches, really.
Oh,
sorry.
Yes. Well, we have another guest coming on.
Yes.
And it's very interesting because he's an artist, and he's been known as America's favorite, most loved artist because he paints, or he does pictures of historical buildings. His name is Randy Riccoboni, and he's Randy to his friends. He's an innovative, self-taught artist who began painting at age 4 when he got into his mother's paint-by-numbers kit. Happy colors are the trademark of this California artist, who not only boldly paints spectacular landmarks in an exciting, impressionistic style, but he has also created astounding results in his career. His artist credits and encouragement by family and teachers for his drive and inspiration, which has led the way to his success as a best-selling author, speaker, and inspirational visionary. In 2007, RD, as he's known, moved his popular Beacon Artworks Gallery into the beautiful Fiesta de Reyes in Old Town San Diego State Historical Park, which received the Pennsylvania 2012 Reader's Choice Award for Best Gallery in San Diego. Wow. Randy also is the recipient of the 2012 Making a Million Look Small Award of Excellence in Business and Personal Development from Bob Proctor, Peggy McCoyle, Gay Hendricks, and Mary Morrissey. He is the author of the book, The Big Picture, Unleash Your Creativity, Profit from Your Passion. Hello, Randy.
Hi, Sandy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you today?
I'm great. And hi, Gabriella. So nice to talk to you both today.
Hi, Randy.
Well, thank you for joining us, Randy. So tell us a little bit about, you're a painter. So now how did you get inspired to paint the historical buildings?
Well, that goes way back to my childhood. We used to, when I was a little boy, we would travel around, me and my parents, and we'd go see historic places around the country and around the area where I grew up, and I would draw pictures of what we saw. And then when I got into school and we played show and tell, I would express and show and tell what I saw over the summer or over the weekend, and that's how I started. And then one day my mom and my aunt went shopping, and I got into my mother's paint-by-numbers set, if you ever remember those.
I do.
Can relate to that. And that sort of started the painting thing. So I was about 4.5 years old when I got in my mother's paint-by-numbers set. So thank you, Mom.
So we've been talking about bullying here with Gabriella, and I know that in your book you're talking about unleashing your creativity and profiting from your passion. Now, that may not deal directly with bullying, but we've talked a little bit, and you're all about encouraging artists to take their artistic abilities and to put them out there in the world, and to help them, market themselves. And sometimes as an artist, we're picked on a little bit because we're told, our parents will tell us, well, when are you going to get a real job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I can totally relate to what Gabriella's saying and what you're saying. And sometimes artists, especially when you're talented, maybe at home you have some siblings and you may not want to, let's say, one-up them, be better than them, so you might kind of hide your talents, and you may even do that in school too, from like the little stars in art class or wherever. And what happens is your emotions get shoved down in there, and eventually that little artist voice is going to be squelched out, and you start developing beliefs at such an early age that maybe you're not good enough. And so I think one of the fears for artists is upstaging somebody else, perhaps, that is close to you, and being in the fear of being better than them. There's many other things that could happen, but that could lead to bullying too.
Right, and one of the things that can lead to, as you were saying, when you don't feel like you have the right to be an artist or to be talented because of what's going on around you, sometimes you might walk around looking like you don't feel like you belong. And then other kids will see that and they'll sense that and they will pick on you. Gabriella and I were talking about that in the green room before we started the show today. Right, Gabriella?
Yeah, and what you just said, Randy, about not being good enough, I totally agree, because we're actually teaching children how to perform in school in everything except the arts. So I would say it's totally suppressed. So it takes 40 years later to get it out. You were faster than I was.
So you went from being an artist and to being an entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
And now you're teaching other people how to do that.
Exactly. There was that. I got diverted from my career along the way by people that said, "You can't do that. You'll starve to death. You can't make a living as an artist. What are you, crazy?"
I've heard that.
You've heard that before, right?
Yes.
Right? What are you doing?
Stop
You can't
dreaming.
do that.
That's
you
right.
need to be like Johnny or Susie and get a real job. So, at first when you're young, you're excited. I'm going to be an artist when I grow up, and that's nice for a while. And then as you start maturing, people start saying, "Really? Well, how are you going to make money?"
Yeah, how are you going to support yourself?
How are you going to support yourself? Exactly. And so then your beliefs get challenged, and you start wondering. And it just takes one wrong thought to send you off the course that you're supposed to be on. And that happened to me by a well-meaning relative who said, "You should become a banker, not an artist." And within 2 weeks, I was a banker.
Oh, my gosh.
And, so I went there. But during my travels, I became a banker. My family was also in retail. They had retail stores. Then I went into human resources. But all along the way, my creativity needed to come out. And so I would get tagged at work for doing creative projects. And people would say, "What are you doing here working in this place? You're so talented." And I would say, yeah. And
now, see, you were getting encouraging remarks, and you were saying, yeah.
Exactly, because I was going back to those childhood beliefs that were instilled in me by somebody I loved, that I couldn't do it.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to work with, as what Gabriella is doing and what you're doing, as you're reaching out not only to people, to adults, but to children, and to give them that insight as a child that they are good enough and that their talents are important, and that they should, feel good about who they are and what they love to do.
Absolutely. And you know what? You can start right in your own community by helping your community with your talents, and starting right in your own backyard. In San Diego, we have this wonderful organization. It's called Arts, A Reason to Survive, and they help homeless children and children in crisis at their location in San Diego. And what they do is they teach these little kids from age 2 to 20, I believe, how to tap into their creativity and their art. And they actually have art classes and dance, and as they get older, they're teaching them graphics, and they're teaching them about accounting, and they wind up helping them get scholarships into art school.
That's wonderful.
They follow them all the way through. It's amazing. So that's just something here, and I like to go help organizations like that. And it also helps teach those young ones who may come from a compromised home or something that they are good enough, and they can be great artists and dancers, and they can use their talents to definitely make a living from as they get older.
That's great, Randy. And you mentioned something. You said something about them tapping into their talents, and I find that kind of interesting, because we are doing a workshop on June the 30th that it's called that, Tapping Into Your Talents.
Cool.
Yeah. And so I think that's a really good belief that we share with people how they can tap into their talents. Gabriella, we were talking a little earlier about the event that you've got coming up on Saturday, and I know that you want to let the listeners know where they can go see you Saturday evening at the Clark County
Adoption and Foster Alliance. It's on Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m., and it is 5500 Painted Mirage Road, Suite 320 here in Las Vegas. And it's sponsored by Matthew Cox of the Never Give Up Foundation.
Now, the Never Give Up Foundation, what do you know about that?
I've been on his radio twice, yesterday live,
yes.
Which was really fun. And believe it or not, I got interviewed by a little girl of 12.
Oh, my gosh.
Who just got adopted.
Oh.
So that was quite interesting. And was she asking the older one the questions about adoption?
Uh-huh.
So that was quite fun. But Matthew Cox has been working really hard with these children, because he says that they really struggle to believe in themselves. And especially if you go from foster home to foster home, what do you tell them? And I realized that we in Europe don't have that system. We have orphanages. So it's kind of different, because I almost would believe that a child is better off with 50 or 100 kids within a boarding school setting than each 4 or 5 months with another foster parent, because you do get used to it. And by the time they get used to it, something happens, or they have to move, or someone gets sick, so there's a lot of change for these children. So by the time that maybe an adopted parent would come along, it's pretty tough. And
that's going to be challenging for them, too, because as children, they just feel uprooted and uprooted and uprooted as soon as they get comfortable.
Yeah. And where do you get the self-acceptance in there?
And, you know, that's right. That's right.
How are you going to teach it?
If you're just tuning in now, you're listening to Women in Music and Arts with your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM 1230 and streaming online at KLAV.com. We're going to take a little break right now and listen to our sponsors.
Forever, or this world like this is. Love is ended before it's begun, and too many moonlight kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun.
Hi, this is Sandy Kastel with WIMA, WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. Join me every Wednesday at noon as I introduce you to the members of Women in Music and Arts, a nonprofit organization comprising of dynamic, influential women in the performing, visual, and literary arts, dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. Discover how we are making a difference by supporting the arts and providing scholarships today to develop the artists of tomorrow. Learn the tools and techniques available to develop creativity and pursue your passion with segments from our Empowering Women workshops. We will keep you informed about our upcoming WIMA mixers, art shows, performances, and community outreach programs, and let you know how you can make a difference with WIMA.
Become a member of WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, 702-240-2930. Become a member, WIMAinternational.com. Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts.
I'm Dolly Coulter.
And this is Bert Anderson. Join us Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. for the Women in Music and Art children's radio show featuring Bixby's Tales.
We'll take you on adventures all around the world with our wonderful roving reporters, Joey and Henry.
And don't forget about me. I'm Bixby. I'm their dog.
Oh, Bixby, we could never forget about you. So don't forget, come and join us every Saturday morning at 9:30. We're going to take you on the adventures of a lifetime.
This Tuesday night at 6, join recording artist Sandy Kastel for Jazz and Cocktails, an intimate look into the world of jazz. Sandy's guests will include musicians, singers, songwriters, club owners, and jazz aficionados. Whether you're driving in traffic or just relaxing at home, tune in and enjoy an eclectic mix of jazz styles with Sandy Kastel. It's Jazz and Cocktails, Tuesday nights at 6. Now, let's return to WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. Here again is your host, Sandy Kastel.
Welcome to Women in Music and Arts. This is your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM 1230 and streaming online at KLAV1230am.com. Our show today is sponsored by the members of Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. You can find out more about Women in Music and Arts by going to our website at womeninmusicandarts.com. That's womeninmusicandarts.com. My guests today are both authors. Joining us right now and online is, or not online, on phone, by the phone, is America's most loved artist, Randy Riccoboni, and author of The Big Picture, Unleash Your Creativity and Profit from Your Passion. And in the studio with us today, we have international activist, advocate, and author Gabriella Van Rij, author of With All My Might, Losing Fear and Finding Self. Randy, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. You gave me a couple of bullet points here, but it seems like they're more about what you want to ask others so that you can answer the questions in your book. Is that correct?
Sure. I love to help people. And one thing that along the journey that I found out is I've learned so much that artists just don't know. And one of the secrets of how I found out was I learned something a long time ago, and that was to never ask advice from someone who knew less about my own art than I did. and I see artists asking other artists who know less about what they're doing than they do. So I want to say, stop that, artists. Don't do that.
Gabriella is nodding. That's true. That's true. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
But don't
it's like at work when you want to raise. Don't tell your neighbor that you want to raise. Go to your boss and ask for one.
And don't ask your neighbor what they think about you asking for a raise.
Exactly. But it's so common, the things we do, and don't realize it.
Well, one of the things you asked her is you said, do you have a skill or talent you'd like to make money from? Do you have a dream that you can't seem to move ahead with? Are you an employee who feels you have untapped abilities? Do you feel stuck in your current way of life or position? Are you a business owner looking for creative approaches to increase success? Are you a painter, writer, craftsperson, or other artistic type? You know, these are some of the questions you're asking here. And I'm hearing this constant theme, I think, that you've got people in all walks of life that are either trying to reinvent themselves because maybe their children have grown up and now they're empty nesters. Maybe they fell victim to the crash that we had in the where everybody lost their life savings. So tell us a little bit about that, how you find ways to help these people and how you give them encouragement.
Well, I created a series of 7 workshops, and those evolved out of, I knew that when I opened my own business, and then through that business I opened up a gallery, and I'm very fortunate to have one of the best locations in California for my gallery, where people from all over the world come and visit every day. Mm-hmm. And I knew as soon as I opened that door that people were going to come in and say, oh my God, you've accomplished your dream. How did you do this? How can I do this? And sure enough, they did. So I decided that when they asked me questions, I would write down their questions, I would answer their questions, and what happened was I put together little workshops and in my home, and then people would come and they were like, oh, this is great, you need to write a book. It's the whole thing, you need to write a book. So I decided that's what I was going to do, and I put my workshops into a book, and what I do is I tell a little bit of my story as an artist and some challenges I faced, and also from some other artists that are very successful with their career, and they might even be writers, artists, writers, all different kinds of craftspersons, musicians. I have a wonderful musician in the book. And we tell about our challenge, and then I give you a creative exercise to break through the challenge in the book. And then at the end of each chapter, I actually do what a lot of people don't do. I give you real business tips, and they're called creative activity points and creative action points. And that is what I have found that people have trouble with. They need to break through something they're stuck with, and then they really need to know what they have to do in order to, say, open their business or have an art show or let the world know what you've got to do. There are definite real steps you have to do. It's not just take a workshop and the sky opens and everything is wonderful.
Right.
You need real solid business tips.
You need to apply them also.
And apply. Oh,
yes.
That's my big thing. Yes, you need to apply them. So what I want to do is, I know everybody doesn't have the opportunity to know things, so what I want to say is, here's your opportunity. I can help you.
Right.
And I hope that happens for a lot of creative people. I'm surprised more artists haven't figured out what I've figured out, because they could absolutely do what I've done.
Well, and you can the listeners can find out about your workshops on your website, which is rdriccoboni.com. That's RD as in dog, Riccoboni.com, and on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/Big Picture Guide fan page.
Yeah, that's for the book. For the new book coming out.
And your new book is The Big Picture, a 7-step guide for creative success in business.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you can save a lot of money off the workshop by reading the book, because the 7 workshops are in the book.
So they can buy the book and do the workshops
on June 26th.
and do the steps, and then go do the workshops.
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great. I wanted to talk to both of you a little bit about something. Our organization is Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. And one of the things that we're very concerned about, and that our goal is to raise scholarships for artists of all ages. And because we've lost so much of it in the schools. And how important do you think that it is that we keep the arts in the schools, or that we provide these opportunities for scholarships for students?
My answer is it's huge. Because that's all we learn otherwise. We never, you were talking about left brain, right brain, but we need to learn both. So yes, I think it's huge to continue that in the schools.
It absolutely. And I just want to add that IBM just did a huge study of all their officers in the company, and what came out of the study was the biggest thing that was lacking was creativity. So if creativity is developed at an early age and in the schools, my goodness, that's where everything starts, your childhood passions, absolutely. So if a huge major company like IBM is saying we need more creativity in the workplace at IBM, what is that saying for all the other corporations too? And then the other thing is, oh my goodness, art is everywhere.
It's part of our life. Every time we turn, everywhere we turn around, it's there.
Yeah,
it's in the
everywhere.
Commercials. It's on TV. It's on the radio. It's everywhere.
It's on your cereal box.
Yeah. Yeah, it is everywhere. So it's so important, I think, to keep it and to keep it alive, and for people to go ahead.
I have a comment there for you, Randy.
Yeah.
Don't you find that in businesses, the employers do everything to actually stop the creativity because they just want performance?
Performance, and what's that doing? It's
well, if
I look at stagnating it's actually stagnating the economy.
I would agree, but because the economy is so bad, people just want the employees to perform instead of to create something that could actually become, in the long run, not short term, but in the long run, it could actually benefit the company hugely. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and I think they are if they do that, they create a vicious cycle. That is going to.
In Canada, they definitely do.
Yeah. Well, it's just like going to school. Actually, how many times is a child in school and they are creative and maybe they've got this creativity, but they want the teachers want them to conform also because there's certain rules that have to be followed, and they don't want them to disrupt the class. And so it is kind of a challenge for the teachers as well, because there is some kind of conforming in order for kids to all be in the same classroom together and yet still find a way to not stifle their creativity. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for teachers to learn better skills sometimes, but even they are getting they're not getting the raises they deserve. They're teaching our children, and there's all kinds of issues there that we could go into.
They need encouragement.
Well, I bet if you pardon me, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was going to say, I bet if you asked anybody about a childhood memory, a fun childhood memory from school, they were doing something creative.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And what is it we go back to when we want to have fun? Something that we are passionate about, which is some kind of creativity. And maybe it's not the same kind of talent like a singer or a dancer. Maybe they're passionate about numbers, or they're passionate about writing. It's all different kinds of things. Gabriella, I wanted to ask you, if you were going to give advice, you're going to be doing this, which you are already, but what advice would you give to parents out there for their children that are being bullied?
Well, what I find always amazing is that the parents seem to say that they weren't aware of it. So my question would be, I do know that most parents struggle, either they're single parents or they're struggling 2 jobs and they're trying to do a lot, but one of the things that I would say is your child does isolate itself, and it happens over time. So it's a slow process. It doesn't do that immediately, because the child that's being bullied actually has a lot of hope that it will go away somehow by itself.
So it might not be visible right away. It might be something that just happens gradually.
But they will see that the child will do less and less things extracurricular. And when they start seeing that, and when they start seeing that the child actually doesn't work on the computer, doesn't do any of the regular things, that's when, in my opinion, their antenna should be up.
There's a sign.
Really up. And one of the things I would love to see more, and I use this, it's like my mantra, an active witness. See, when I go to schools, I speak about bystanders. And for the children, that word is really difficult, depending on the age. So an active witness means a lot to children because they get that message much better. So if we meaning parents, educators, friends, could be an active witness without words, could you imagine how powerful that would be?
Explain a little bit more about what you mean. I think I get it, but I want to
so
really...
if you're being bullied, whatever it is, let's say I make a drawing at school.
Right.
I'll stay in the arts here. I'll make a drawing at school and I get an F. And everyone laughs and they say, it doesn't look like an elephant. It looks like, I don't know, a dog. But it's like really bad and I love my drawing and I'm being laughed at.
Right.
Then without words, there could be one person in that class just saying, I like that drawing. Or in a case of something more violent, move closer to the victim that is being bullied. I think the dynamics change instantly. When a group attacks one person and you move closer into the vicinity of that person, the dynamics are changed. The energy changes immediately because the bully actually gets scared.
So in other words, you're saying if somebody is an active witness. And not necessarily to go try to get involved in the middle of it, but
just move closer.
Moving closer so that there's an awareness from the bully that is doing the bullying that somebody else is around and they're witnessing this.
And often when you move closer, someone else moves closer.
Right.
It's like a mob scene.
Okay.
And when that happens, the bully actually just kind of goes, oh, whatever. And it walks away. I'm not saying that it's a permanent situation, but it's helpful when it happens. And the victim doesn't feel that isolated and alone.
Well, I think sometimes people don't know if they should get actively involved, though. They might fear that if they do...
But that's because of peer pressure.
Yes.
Because you don't want to... I mean, I've seen my own personal friends not wanting to help me on the schoolyard because I actually understood. I thought it was normal that they didn't help me.
And Randy, can you? What do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, I see adults doing this with each other at around the table at the coffee house. You know, one starts complaining, and then they're all at it. And I think we all pick up on each other's vibrations. But if somebody at the table just stopped and went, that's interesting what you said, and just was quiet for a second, and like, what do you mean by that? And I think that, you know, we all get addicted to negativity, and we could get addicted to positivity too. So I think that putting that out there with bullying is a very similar thing. It's some child is picking up on that negativity from adults and bringing it down into the school is what I'm thinking, and I think it's all too common, and it's time to stop that.
Well, so
or to put out a good vibe when you're out there. It all begins with each and every one of us.
So basically, what we're all saying is the important thing for children and adults is to, first of all, Randy, is you're encouraging people to do what they love and to follow their passion, right?
Yeah. Stop complaining about what's not working.
Stop complaining about what's not working and do something about what is working, right?
Yes. So your children can see that, and you know, and it just passes right down and goes into their little belief system.
And also to feel confidence and look for and obviously to get support, you know, from people, and then feeling confident about what it is you're doing, then you'll be less inclined to get bullying from other kids. But you know, you may get some bullying anyway. But to Gabriella, to let your parents know, to talk to teachers, I'm sure, and even friends.
I think a lot of the victims actually do talk to the friends, but there again, there seems to be a huge problem between the the friends knowing when they should tell another adult or when they
Right.
should not.
And sometimes they feel like if they tell somebody, they'll get picked on more.
Yes, absolutely.
So what is the best advice then for the student, for the child?
The child
to
needs
go
to
to a-
understand they're only picked upon for what makes them so special.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could actually wholeheartedly embrace that specialness. It's about creativity, indirectly again, Randy. It's the creativity within that you have to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
And if that child can embrace it somehow,
So the
then-
I'm sorry.
no, then it will show. It will just show automatically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an artist that his name's Dan Zadra, and he said, don't let anyone steal your dream. It's your dream, not theirs. And I tend to all your relationships, surround yourself with love and support. I think we really need to, from parents and teachers, we really need to instill that in the children. Don't let anybody steal their dreams. It's their dream, not anybody else's.
Yeah, but Randy,
And that's their creativity, right?
but isn't that the first things our parents tell us by the time we're teenagers? Grow up.
Grow up, get a job.
I
Sorry,
know.
mine did. Mine told me to grow
Yeah.
up, get a job, and be responsible.
So I think the more that we can go into programs, that we can do programs like what you're both doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're both writing books. You're authors. You're going in. You're inspiring people. Randy, you are a mentor to people. You give these workshops. You're empowering artists, and you're empowering people to do things. Gabriella, you're doing the same thing. I think the more that we can do that, just like Women in Music and Arts, we want to go out into the world. We want to let people know these are the things that are important to pursue your passion, to be proud of your creativity, to not let other people bully you. Don't let anybody else tell you you can't and you won't and you never will. Believe in yourself. But in order to do that, we have to get the word out there, and that's what we're doing. Gabriella, you're going to be speaking Saturday for the Clark County Adoptive Association. And Randy, you've got your books and your workshops that are available for everyone on your website at rdriccoboni.com and facebook.com Big Picture Guide fan book page. And Gabriella, you have your website, which is Gabriella.
And my website
Actually,
for the book is withallmymight.com.
Withallmymight.com. Yes. So that's withallmymight.com, your beautiful book. And it's so wonderful to have you here today in the studio, Gabriella. And Randy, it's been wonderful having you here online with us on the phone. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. And to our listening audience, you've been listening to Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. And I'm your host, Sandy Kastel. We are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon. Please join us and go to our website, womeninmusicandarts.com, and go to YouTube, Radio WIMA, and see our videotapes that we're doing of our in-studio shows. And now you listen to one of my songs from this time around. Well, I'll always remember I had a swing and time. Oh, I'm gonna give it everything I've got. Lady luck, please let the dice stay hot. Let me shoot a 7